The night was cold, and the moon hung low over the Crimson Moon Pack territory. Inside the great stone hall, Kael Ashford stood before the council elders, his arms crossed and his jaw tight. He was the Alpha King, the strongest leader his pack had seen in generations. Yet tonight he looked troubled. "You cannot be serious, Kael," said Elder Thorn, his voice shaking with worry. "No wolf who has entered the Forbidden Zone has ever returned. Not in 300 years. Kael did not answer right away. He walked slowly toward the tall window, looking out at the dark forest beyond the pack's borders. Somewhere past those trees lay the zone, a place wrapped in old magic and older fear. "The curse grows stronger every year," Kael finally said. "Our wolves are losing their strength. Pups are born weaker. Elders die younger. If we do nothing, our bloodline will fade into nothing within 2 generations. And if you die trying to fix it," said Elder Thorn, "our bloodline ends even sooner." Kael turned to face them. His golden eyes burned with quiet determination. "Then I will not die." The room fell silent. No one dared argue further, though their worried glances said enough. They all knew Kael's mind was made up. Outside the hall, word had already begun to spread. Pack members whispered among themselves, unsure whether to feel proud or afraid. Their king, the strongest alpha in memory, was preparing to walk into the one place every wolf had been taught to fear since birth. Among those listening from the shadows was Lord Merrick, the alpha of the neighboring Stonewood pack. He had come under the pretense of a diplomatic visit, but his real interest was far less noble. Merrick had wanted the Crimson Moon throne for years, and Kael's foolish decision might finally give him the opening he needed. "If he goes into that cursed forest," Merrick murmured to himself, a thin smile curling on his lips, "he will not be coming back as anyone's king." The next morning, Kael prepared for his journey. He wore simple leather armor, light enough to move quickly, but strong enough to offer some protection. He carried no large weapons, only a small blade strapped to his side, and a worn map passed down through generations of alphas before him. Before leaving, he visited his mother's grave at the edge of the packlands. He knelt beside the stone marker, resting his hand against the cool surface. "I have to do this," he whispered, "for all of us." The wind rustled through the trees, almost as if answering him. Kael rose to his feet, took one last look at the only home he had ever known, and walked toward the dark line of trees that marked the beginning of the Forbidden Zone. The moment he crossed the boundary, the air changed. It grew heavier, colder, filled with a strange energy that made the hair on his arms stand on end. The trees here were twisted and ancient, their branches reaching out like silent warnings. No birds sang, no insects buzzed, only silence, deep and unnatural. Kael moved carefully, his senses sharp. Every sound seemed louder than it should have been. The crunch of leaves beneath his boots, the soft creak of branches above him. He had grown up hearing stories about this place, tales meant to frighten pups into staying within pack borders. Now, walking through it himself, he understood why those stories had survived for centuries. Hours passed, though it was difficult to tell exactly how many. The sun never seemed to move in the sky above the thick canopy, and Kael soon realized that something about this place twisted even the flow of time. Then came the first illusion. A figure appeared ahead of him on the path, his mother, standing exactly as she had the day she died, smiling gently and reaching out her hand. "Kael," she said softly, "come home, my son." For a moment, his heart ached so deeply, he nearly stepped forward. But something inside him, some instinct sharpened by years of leadership, made him pause. "You are not real," he said quietly. The figure's smile twisted into something darker, and then it vanished completely, replaced by shifting shadows that slithered away into the trees. Kael's breathing was heavy, his chest tight with the pain of seeing his mother's face again, even if it had been false. He pressed onward, more cautious now, more aware that the Forbidden Zone preyed not on the body, but on the mind. By what felt like the second day, exhaustion began to weigh on him. He had eaten little, the strange energy of the zone making it hard to trust any plant or water source he encountered. His steps grew slower, his thoughts hazier. It was then that he stumbled into a hidden trap. A section of ground that gave way beneath him, sending him crashing into a narrow pit lined with sharp stones. Pain shot through his leg as he landed hard, and for a moment, panic threatened to take hold. He tried to climb out, but his fingers slipped against the damp, mossy walls. The pit was deep, and exhaustion made his movements clumsy. That was when he saw her. A figure appeared at the edge of the pit, looking down at him with calm, steady eyes. She had long silver hair and wore simple woven clothing, clearly made from materials found within the forest itself. Unlike the illusions before, something about her presence felt different. Solid, real, undeniably true. "You should be more careful," she said, her voice calm but laced with quiet amusement. "Who are you?" Kael asked, wincing as he tried to find better footing. "Someone who has lived here far longer than you'd believe," she replied. She knelt down, extending a hand toward him. "Take my hand. I will help you up." The Kael hesitated only briefly before grabbing her hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong, and with her help, he managed to climb out of the pit. Once standing, he studied her closely. She did not look threatening, yet something about her felt powerful, layered with secrets. "My name is Elena," she said before he could ask again, "and you, Alpha King, are very far from home. You know who I am?" "Word travels, even here," Elena said, a faint smile touching her lips. "Though I admit, I did not expect you to actually attempt this journey." "I don't have a choice," Kael said. "My pack is dying. A curse weakens us more each year. I came to find the relic said to break it." Elena's expression shifted, something unreadable passing behind her eyes. "I know of this relic," she said slowly. "I have protected it for longer than you could imagine." Kael's eyes widened. "You're the guardian the old stories speak of." "I am bound to this place," Elena said simply. "I cannot leave the zone, not unless the curse holding the relic is broken." "Then help me reach it," Kael said. "Please." Elena studied him for a long moment, as if weighing his sincerity. Finally, she nodded. "Very well, but the path ahead grows more dangerous. If you wish to survive, you must trust me completely." "I do," Kael said without hesitation, surprising even himself with how easily the words came. Together, they continued deeper into the forbidden zone. Elena moved with practiced ease, clearly familiar with every twist and turn of the cursed land. She showed Kael which plants were safe to eat, which streams held clean water, and which shadows hid dangers too great to face directly. As the days passed, something unexpected began to grow between them. Elena, despite her solitude, possessed a sharp wit and quiet warmth that gradually broke through Kael's guarded exterior. Kael, in turn, found himself sharing things he had never spoken aloud, his fears about leading his pack, the weight of expectations placed upon him since birth, the loneliness that came with being a king everyone respected, but few truly understood. "You carry so much on your shoulders," Elena said one evening, as they rested beside a small fire hidden within a rocky alcove. "Does anyone ever ask if you are well, or do they only ask what you can do for them?" Kael was quiet for a moment. "No one has asked me that in a very long time." Elena's gaze softened. "Then I am asking now, are you well, Kael?" He looked at her, something shifting deep within his chest. "I don't know," he admitted honestly. "But being here, with you, makes it easier to believe I might be eventually." Elena did not respond with words, but the gentle smile she offered said enough. Their journey continued, the bond between them deepening with each passing obstacle they overcame together. Yet the zone seemed to sense their growing strength, throwing greater challenges in their path. Shadow wolves, twisted creatures born from the zone's dark magic, began appearing more frequently, testing both Kael's combat skills and his resolve. Through every encounter, neither of them backed down, fighting side by side with practiced coordination, as if they had always been meant to face such trials together. Finally, after what felt like countless days, they reached the heart of the Forbidden Zone, a massive ancient tree, its trunk wider than any building Kael had ever seen, its roots stretching deep into glowing earth. "This is it," Elena said softly. "The relic rests within the heart of this tree. But know this, Kael. The final trial is not one of strength or skill, it is one of truth." "What do you mean?" You must face your greatest fear, Elena said. Only by overcoming it honestly will the tree allow you to claim what you seek. Kael took a deep breath, steadying himself before stepping forward. As he touched the ancient bark, the world around him shifted suddenly, pulling him into a vision. He stood within his own pack's territory, but everything was wrong. The buildings were crumbling, the wolves around him weak and lifeless. Lord Merrick stood at the center, wearing a crown that should have belonged to Kael. You failed them, Merrick's voice echoed coldly. You abandoned your throne, and now everything you built has fallen apart. Pack members Kael recognized, wolves he had grown up with, fought alongside, sworn to protect, turned away from him, their expressions filled with disappointment and quiet resentment. This is your fault, one of them said. You chose to leave us behind. The weight of failure pressed down on Kael's chest, suffocating and absolute. For a moment, he felt himself begin to believe it, to accept this vision as an unavoidable truth. But then, through the chaos, he heard Elena's voice, calm and steady, cutting through the noise like a clear bell. This is fear, Kael, not truth. You came here because you refused to let your pack fade away quietly. That is not weakness. That is strength. Kael closed his eyes, focusing on her words, allowing them to anchor him against the storm of doubt surrounding him. I am not perfect, he said aloud, his voice steady despite the vision's attempts to shake him. But I have never stopped fighting for my pack, and I never will. This fear does not define me. The vision shattered around him like glass, dissolving into bright light. When Kael opened his eyes, he found himself standing once again before the massive tree. Elena beside him, her expression filled with quiet pride. You faced it, she said softly, and you did not let it break you. Before them, a hollow opened within the tree's trunk, revealing a small stone relic, glowing faintly with the same gentle light that had surrounded Kael during his vision. Kael reached forward, his fingers closing around the relic. The moment he lifted it, a wave of warm energy spread outward, washing over both him and Elena like a gentle, healing tide. Elena gasped softly, her hand flying to her chest, as something within her shifted, the invisible binding that had held her to this place, finally releasing its grip. It's done, she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. After all these years, I am finally free. Kael smiled, relief and joy mingling within him. Then let us leave this place together. The journey back through the Forbidden Zone felt remarkably different from their journey inward. The oppressive heaviness that once filled the air seemed lighter now, as though the zone itself recognized that its long curse had finally been broken. When Kael and Elena finally emerged from the tree line, stepping back onto the familiar soil of Crimson Moon territory, a stunned silence fell over the gathered pack members who had been keeping watch. Word spread instantly. The Alpha King had entered the Forbidden Zone and returned, the first to do so in over 300 years. Cheers erupted throughout the pack as Kael and Elena walked through the gates, exhaustion evident on their faces, but relief shining brightly in their eyes. Elder Thorn rushed forward, disbelief and joy mixing in his expression. You truly returned, he said, voice trembling. We feared the worst. The curse is broken, Kael announced, holding up the relic for all to see. Our bloodline will heal. Our pack will grow strong once more. The gathered wolves erupted into celebration, their voices echoing through the territory in pure joy and disbelief. However, not everyone shared in the celebration. Lord Merrick, who had remained within Crimson Moon territory awaiting news of Kael's failure, stepped forward with poorly concealed displeasure. You were gone for many days, Merrick said loudly, attempting to draw attention. Long enough for some to question your commitment to your throne. Kael turned to face him calmly, strength radiating from his every movement. I left to save my pack from a curse that has plagued us for generations. I do not need to explain myself to you, Merrick. The council may see it differently, Merrick pressed, though uncertainty flickered briefly across his face. The council already knows the truth, Elder Thorn interjected firmly. Our king risked everything to save us all. That is not abandonment. That is leadership. Murmurs of agreement spread through the gathered crowd, eyes turning toward Merrick with growing suspicion. Realizing he had lost any chance of swaying public opinion, Merrick's jaw tightened. "This is not over," he muttered, before turning and storming away, his pride wounded, but his ambitions far from extinguished. Kael did not concern himself further with Merrick's bitterness. Instead, he turned to Elena, who stood quietly beside him, taking in the unfamiliar sight of so many wolves gathered together in celebration. "This is your home now too, if you wish it to be," Kael said gently. Elena looked at him, warmth filling her expression. "I would like that very much." In the days that followed, the curse's effects began reversing almost immediately. Pack members who had grown weak found their strength returning. Newborn pups displayed vitality and health unseen in generations. The relic's power, combined with Kael's successful journey, had truly restored balance to the Crimson Moon bloodline. Kael formally introduced Elena to the pack, not merely as the guardian who had aided his quest, but as someone he hoped would stand beside him as his equal, his partner, his future queen. The pack welcomed her warmly, recognizing the quiet strength and wisdom she brought with her. Word of Kael's journey spread far beyond Crimson Moon territory, reaching every pack across the land. The Alpha King who dared enter the Forbidden Zone and returned alive became a legend whispered among wolves everywhere, a story of courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable resolve. Yet for Kael, the greatest reward was not the legend his name would become, nor the strength restored to his bloodline. It was the quiet evenings spent beside Elena, watching the sunset over territory now thriving under their combined leadership, knowing that together, they had transformed fear into hope, and darkness into a new beginning. The Crimson Moon Pack entered a new era of prosperity, their king forever remembered not just as the Alpha who survived the Forbidden Zone, but as the leader who proved that true strength came not from avoiding fear, but from facing it honestly, with unwavering hope held firmly in heart and soul.